If maniacs, zombies, aliens, monsters, and madmen are your line, then try this. Creep Phone, the phone number nightmares are made of. Call 1-900-909-CREEP. Creep Phone puts you in touch with the baddest of the bad. And now you can be a Creep Phone star. Record your own screaming monster madness. You may be heard by millions of Creep Phone fans nationwide. Call now. Under 18, get permission before calling. $2 first minute, 45 cents each additional minute.
Howdy folks, and welcome to the Whacky World Drive-In. I'm your host, the White Chocolate Man, and with me is the Fiend Without a Face, Dick Vincent.
Hey Rob, how's it going? And welcome back everyone to a new episode. This is a special one for us because we have a really great guest, or co-host I guess we should call him. That's what I'm going to call him, as a co-host. So take it away, Rob.
Well, this guy, he is the producer of the Academy Award-winning films Scared Topless and Shark Babes. Dave Zimbabwe. Dave Zani.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you very much for having me on your show tonight. It's a pleasure to be on the program.
No, it's more of a pleasure to have you on the program.
Yeah, Dave, this is quite an honor. This is the first filmmaker we've had on, so we're really honored.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you very much. Like I said, the pleasure is all mine. I love meeting. I met Rob on Twitter, and I love your guys' podcast. I've been digging it, so it's kind of cool to be on here.
Dave has been a good supporter of the cast, and we appreciate that. So, folks, we were actually supposed to have Dave on last night, but Skype updated and decided that it did not like my recording software. And so after an hour of struggling, I finally got it to work, but Dave was running late for a 70s style key party. He had to be off. So, yeah. But we ended up recording anyway and talked about the things last night that we were going to talk about today. So we're kind of winging it today, so it should be fantastic. So the first thing I wanted to bring up, and I'm sure you two should have memories of this, and I don't necessarily mean of the sexy variety, but 900 numbers. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, that was just something you could not get around, especially if you watched late night TV or even cartoons. There was always some kind of different 900 number commercial, and sometimes the commercials were far more memorable than the lines themselves. So I wanted to ask you guys about if you had any 900 number memories.
900 numbers actually, if I think back to being a kid, to me, 1-900 numbers only have a sexual meaning. I don't think I read something that was non-sexual would be like 1-800. Well, so what would be like a non-sexual 1-900 number?
Well, like for example, Freddy Krueger had one I called as a kid. It was like Freddy's Nightmares, and you'd call and get a story from Freddy. Grandpa Munster had one that they ran every Saturday during Super Scary Saturday on TBS, and you would call and Grandpa would like tell stories and jokes. And then there were some random ones that ran late at night. During late night TV, like I remember when it was like 1-900-909 Freak, and the commercial was just this weird little puppet. It actually looked like the imp from Sorority Babes, and he was just him dancing. He was like 1-900-909 Freak. Didn't tell you anything about the phone line, but that was it.
Interesting.
Wow.
Ooh.
That is interesting.
So am I the only one?
My 900, like, kind of along with Dave, I just remember, staying up real late at night watching stuff on TV and seeing them pop up, usually for some kind of, like, call-in sex thing, I think. And the Psychics used them a lot, didn't they, I believe?
Psychic Hotline.
Oh, yeah,
Psychic Hotline.
Right.
It seems like it was either Psychic or Psychic Sex, maybe a combination of the two. But that's pretty much what I remember.
Well, Dave, you said you have the sexual memories. Did you ever call one?
No, that's the thing. I remember these being like, I grew up in the suburbs, and the suburbs always has their little, like, mythology that goes along with it. And this is one of the things that was in my mythology as a little kid. To dial one of these numbers is like one of the cardinal sins. And not because of anything dirty, but because my idea as a little kid that you were being charged $100 a second. And if my old man, you know what I mean, if I had something like that happened, like, how I couldn't even fathom, as like a little kid. So it was more of just like, that was just something that you never dared to type in the phone.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because when you saw those ads, you thought if you called the number up just to see what it was, there was no way you could get around getting out of that, because they would get the phone bill, the number would be on there, and they knew exactly who did it.
That was always the horror story you would hear. The phone bill came in and it was $500. You're in trouble for forever.
Yep, yeah, and there's that one classic episode of Beavis and Butthead where they
Yes.
call the sex
Oh,
number, but it's
yes.
like a real hot voice, but it's like a gross woman. But then they keep and she like puts the phone by her ass, and they stay on like all night. And I just remember seeing that as a little kid and being horrified and be like, "Oh my god, could you imagine the bill they're gonna get the next month?" You know what I mean?
Wait, you saw that as a little kid? You must be a youngin'.
I was born in 1983, so when that was on in what, like
Okay.
94? I mean, it's not too little, but like 10 or 11 years old, you know what I mean? I was not really allowed to watch Beavis and Butthead too much. I had to sneak Beavis and Butthead and only listen, go into the basement and put the volume on one bar, because it was like those old cable analog TVs where the bars would come, you know what I mean? You would fill the bars up for the volume, bring it down on one bar, and then put my ear right by the speaker.
That's fantastic.
That's a great story.
I'll tell you my 900 number experience. I called a couple times. Like I said, I called the Freddy Krueger one, and I called the Grandpa Munster one. And both of them, the story or whatever it was, started in the middle. It just picked up. So you had to sit through it and then listen again in order to hear the full story. That's how they get you.
Oh, the extra time.
Yes. And supposedly the stories were supposed to change every day. And so like, call back tomorrow for the rest of the story. But the Grandpa Munster one, the kicker with it was, he said that if you called, you would get a free Grandpa Munster patch. And so I wanted that patch. So I called. Well, the thing is, the address was given so fast, there was no possible way to write it down in time. I would have had to have listened to the message several times just to get the address
That's
down.
how they get you for the cost of the quote-unquote free patch. You have to listen 10 times in a row.
That's how
Yeah.
they get you.
More time, more time.
You end up spending $100 for a patch.
A Grandpa Munster patch. I do have good memories of that. I don't know if either of you remember that, but it was TBS on Saturday mornings. It ran, I think it started right as cartoons was ending, and it was Grandpa Munster's Super Scary Saturday. And Grandpa Munster would just host a lot of Godzilla movies, but just old horror movies and stuff like that. And I really liked that a lot.
I think it's one of the things I really enjoy about listening to your podcast and stuff like that, is because you guys talk about that old type of stuff, and there's just something, I don't know, the 90s and television in the 90s and cable television, it was kind of like a new thing, so they were creative, and they were, people were still willing to suspend belief and still could watch movies like Frankenstein. I don't know, do you ever see Dracula and Frankenstein on, the originals on TV anymore, like late at night, and
Only on AMC. And that's generally around Halloween time. It's about the only time you can catch those.
It's not the season now, yeah. Just, I don't know, the weird things like that, like you said. Like, I guess that's on the internet now, but...
Yeah, it's not the same, though. I mean, staying up late at night. One of my favorite ones was always Kung Fu Theater with John Saxon.
Wait, did he host it?
Yeah, he would sit out with his little kimono on and sit on a rug, and I think he even had a little gong or something, and he would like introduce it and give you this kind of hokey Zen philosophy. Then in run some kung fu movie. It was great.
Speaking of John Saxon, he hosts one of my favorite all-time compilations called The Deadliest Art. And it's just a compilation of some of the best 80s and early 90s Hong Kong martial arts films, just edited together. But it's really not available on DVD, unfortunately. But it's really good. I discovered so much of my Hong Kong cinema through that compilation.
Well, you have it on it's on VHS?
I actually have it recorded on VHS. Like, not even a store-bought copy. Taped it off Cinemax.
Wow.
Rob, are you kind of rocking a VHS collection right now?
I have some back in storage in Georgia, but as far as out here in LA, I probably have about 20.
And they work, and you can, I haven't had a VCR hooked up in maybe, I don't know, it's not that crazy long, but I used to be kind of into that.
Actually, a buddy of mine, Dave the Mad Butcher, who comes up almost every episode, he got me a new VCR for a couple of my birthdays ago, and so I've been putting it to good use.
There are some titles that you just can't, they just never made a DVD release, and those titles will eventually just be lost to time. There's a couple great documentaries about VHS collecting. Have you guys seen any of them?
I've heard of them.
I saw the one, Please Rewind. I saw that one. Yeah, some of those VHS tapes, I mean, I sold a big hunk of my collection. I had a bunch of those old Wizard big boxes that I brought down and sold. Sometimes I regret, but man, I got an insane amount of money for that stuff. I'm talking like hundreds of dollars per tape. And it was stuff that you could go buy on DVD, but it was just they had the cool boxes and everything. But I was just flabbergasted how much money I made off that stuff.
You were selling them on Craigslist or eBay or
eBay.
Speaking of big boxes, there's a bookstore a couple blocks away. It's half of it's a bookstore, then the other half is a porn store. But it's like half legitimate bookstore. But they sell the occasional old big box adult films. So I try to they're like $5 a piece. So I try, even if I don't watch the movie, I try to get those each time I go there just to have those big boxes.
And to the size of like a book, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's those are that's pretty classic. In one of those VHS documentaries, it highlights a VHS collector who has pretty much turned his entire basement into a mom and pop video store. And he's just went around buying everything from mom and pop video stores. I mean, all their VHS tapes, but of course, then all of just the racks that hold it, and like the desk, and he's got all the stuff. And he's got he's got the porno behind the desk, behind the register, like a store would. And he's got all those classic big box porno things that you're just talking about. It's pretty funny.
That's great.
I miss video stores so much, mom and pop video stores. And like me and Rob were talking about a few episodes back, I think, is that when you went into a video store, it's like you had to make a commitment. It wasn't like you were, streaming, oh, this sucks, I'm going to turn it off after 5 minutes. I mean, you made a choice, you rented it, you had to take it home, and you watched it. No,
it's true. There was that commitment aspect to it that just made it a better experience, because you had to finish the film whether it was going to be shit or not, because you paid your $5 or whatever it was, and you're going to, and then you're going to have opinion on that film for the rest of your life. You're going to say, oh, I saw it, and it sucked. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And something you lack from streaming as well is I didn't really like going to Blockbuster back in the day because they censor all their movies. I was more, if I had to get to a chain store, it was Movie Gallery, because Movie Gallery got the uncensored movies. But they would also have freebies. Like when Nightbreed first came out on VHS, they were actually giving away full-sized movie posters and a little pamphlet with detailed bios on a bunch of the different monsters in the movie. And I still have those to this day. Little things like that Netflix can't give you.
It's the freak phone, and here's the party freak. Freddy Freaker, dancing new sensation, grabbing the nation, doing the freak. Call now, 1-900-490-FREAK. Join the party, the fast and easy way to hear what's scamming from New York to LA. Call now, 1-900-490-FREAK. What's happening, what's jamming, party till you drop. Dial and hear the action, what's hot and what's not. Call now, 1-900-490-FREAK. $2 a call.
Amazon Prime surprisingly has some very obscure titles on it. Like I was flipping through their, just the free to stream stuff, and they had Dead Time Tales, a movie I haven't seen since the theater.
Amazon Prime is the closest thing to older school Netflix because, there are actually I don't know. I thought it seemed like a vast amount of weird stuff on there. I mean, weird in the sense not even that it doesn't have to be all just horror and sci-fi and boobs weird, but like weird that like I'll watch like a travel program about Finland from like 1996.
You lost me when you said not boobs weird. Sorry. I kind of just stopped paying attention. Sorry.
Your mind just went.
The reason even any of this came up is last night, as I said, we discussed what we wanted to talk about today last night. And I was laying in bed watching late night TV, trying to figure out, well, what are we going to talk about today? And I actually saw a phone sex commercial. I didn't know they still even had them. But sure enough, there was a phone sex. It was on MTV Classic. I was watching a Metal Mayhem, and between the videos, there was a phone sex commercial. And I was really surprised to see it. They're not quite as blatant as they used to be. Now it's more so blonde porn star chicks saying, sexy singles want to meet you, that sort of thing.
Yeah, they make it almost seem like a dating line, but it's like not, though, right?
No.
Yeah, call up and talk to me for a while, and we'll set up a meeting, maybe.
Mm-hmm. So I have a personality question for you fellas.
Okay.
We'll call this the Battle of the Leatherfaces. Who would win in a fight? Gunnar Hansen's Leatherface from the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or Bill Johnson's Leatherface from the second Texas Chainsaw Massacre? And I mean the characters, not the actors.
That is a really good question. I personally like the Leatherface from the first movie better, from a fan's point of view. But I think the second one would win in a fight. Didn't they make him a little like less of like a slow person, and they made him more evil?
That's an interesting take on it. What about you, Dick?
Just as a strictly like looking at it like from a like analytical point, I would kind of lean toward the second one, but my heart's got to go out to Gunner in the first one. First, that's one of my like milestone movies, and I got to stick with Gunner.
Well, my take on it is I definitely go with 2, Bill Johnson. For one, it's my favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie is the second one. And 2, if you look at Leatherface in the first movie, yeah, he was scary, but he was also a little kind of whimpering. He was almost like a beaten dog in many scenes. And he did the drag, and he was running around the kitchen. Whereas the Bill Johnson Leatherface was just meaner and tougher, and he may not have been, but he looked bigger. So my money would be on Bill Johnson Leatherface in the fight.
Cool. I mean, I do love Second Chainsaw. When I first saw it, I was kind of iffy on it, but that's turned into one of my favorite, sequel movies of all time.
That was the first one I saw, so that might be a big part. Had I seen the first one first, I might feel differently, but I saw the second one first, and it just really struck me at that time, and I really latched onto it, and I think we've talked about this on every single pod we've done, but yeah, so Bill Johnson all the way.
2 is way more of like a goofball movie, and 1 is one will still scare me.
Well, that was the intention. He knew he had to do something totally different, that he couldn't catch the lightning in a bottle twice, so he had to take it in a different place, and I think he chose the right place to take it.
Yeah, because even when you watch the first one now, it's surprising how much it's black, but how much black comedy is in that first one. And for the second one, he just thought, okay, I've got to do something different. I'm going to ramp this up, to the comedy stuff.
So I'll ask you both. When I was growing up, I just always assumed that Drayton, Bill Seidel, was their father. But it seems like in the recent lore, and I was looking it up on Wikipedia before we started, they all say he's the older brother. Did you guys ever take that from it?
Yeah, in the first, he's the brother. In the first movie, there's some dialogue allusion to it or something, but I picked that up from the first movie.
Okay. The cook is the older brother.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure, because they got Grandpa up in the attic. I'm not sure what happened to Mom and Dad, where they kind of lay in the, generations. But yeah.
So I was doing research on it today, and supposedly there's a comic book that came out. I don't know when it takes place or when it came out, but it had explained that Drayton was not only their brother, but also their father, since they were inbred. So I guess
Texas Chainsaw Massacre comic book, graphic novel.
Yeah, never got them though.
That does sound cool though.
I do have the Freddy versus Jason versus Ash graphic novel.
And then didn't Topps do a graphic novel of Jason versus Leatherface?
Sounds like something they would have done in the 90s.
They don't do stuff like that anymore. Well, I guess because it's been done already.
Yeah. I'll tell you a somewhat controversial point of view I have. I like Freddy vs. Jason. Horror fans love to rag that film, but I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I'm a fan too. I'm happy that it. I just like to see the 2 characters together in a movie. I think that's an amazing feat that they were able to figure out. They should do it more often.
You saw that, right, Dick?
Yeah, and it's, I agree with you guys, it was just cool to see the 2 characters in the movie together, and it worked for what it is. It's a fun piece of entertainment. I don't know what more people expected. It's a great little thing.
Tell you a fun Rob story. I'm pretty open-minded musically, but one form of music I just cannot stand any part of, any song, any artist, anything, is that 90s R&B Destiny's Child type stuff. I just have a hatred for that kind of stuff. So when I saw that movie, saw it in the theater with some friends, in the scene where Freddy killed that Destiny's Child girl, I applauded. I was the only person in the theater applauding, but darn it, I applauded.
Well, I never understood how they got away with calling that stuff R&B.
Yeah, totally different. I mean,
you had some sort of surprise for the other day?
No, just what the topic was going to be a surprise.
Oh,
I wanted to just throw you into it head first, but since we talked about it last night, so we did a Satan episode, just all about Satan.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, our favorite Satans. Well, Dick, you said you had something, some stuff you wanted to ask Dave about.
Oh yeah, let's talk about Scare Topless a little bit. We got Dave here.
Oh.
We need to talk about that. One
Sure.
thing I kind of wanted just to throw out there is kind of something I noticed. I mean, I haven't. I want to see the film. I plan on ordering the film from you next week. But the IMDb page, I noticed the lead actress in it. Was it Brigitte B?
Yeah.
I mean, I had heard of her. I looked her up and saw she's an adult actress. But when I first saw her face, I'm a huge fan of like 70s, 60s, 70s Euro horror. And she just, I thought, had this great kind of classic, I don't know what you call like throwback look. I saw her face and I thought, man, she belongs in a 1970s Spanish horror movie.
I don't know. Yeah, you're right. She does kind of come off a little retro Spanish horror or Italian horror film, and I think she fits the bill perfectly. I'm a big fan of the way she looks.
Yeah, first thing I noticed. Yeah.
Comes off.
So Scared Topless, you just released it on DVD. It's a limited run, though, correct?
It'll be available. I mean, we're self-distributing it right now. It'll be available in some stores. But we have a limited supply, I should say, rather, maybe of copies that are signed by Jim Wynorski.
Okay, so
Jim
that's
was
what's
very-
limited. Okay, I knew you said
Yeah, that's
something
what's
was
limited.
Okay.
Jim, it was very kind and just offered to do a signing for me and signed X number of units. I'm not even sure how many it was, but it was a decent amount, but not a crazy amount. So there's a limited supply, so people can order one that was actually signed by Jim, which is cool. Only for a few dollars more, so it's not even that much of a price. But as far as hopefully they'll be available for as many years to come.
Where can they get it from?
ScaredTopless.com. You can check out the trailer there and purchase a copy of the film, and you can either, of course, like I said, there's two buying options. You can buy the regular copy or a copy signed by Jim Wynorski. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Scared Topless, and we'll follow you back, and send me your DM me your order number, and I'll sign it too, just for free. Just because I'm the producer and stuff like that. I'll throw you a little thank you, and I thank everyone for the support. I would appreciate any support out there.
Yeah, folks, that's Dave mentioned Twitter earlier. That's how we became friends. Oh, did you pass out?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no. The phone just kind of hit my nose as I turned it from.
Okay.
Which makes it sound like I have a giant nose, but I don't.
It sounded like you passed out and fell. Okay.
Still messing with that dead hooker.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll start over. But yeah, so as Dave mentioned earlier, that's kind of how we became friends that's how we became friends, which is over Twitter, just kind of, pimping each other's different projects and such. And folks, I'm sure you've seen I Pimp the Scare Topless page all the time, but if you haven't, check it out, because it's a lot more than just the movie. Dave posts all kinds of interesting stuff.
I do. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I try to keep it interesting and not just promoting my film. I try to I post stuff that I'm interested in, and I retweet other people's things that I think are cool. So.
It's a lot like the Vamp Star page, where we kind of squeeze in the promotion, but it's like the medicine and the spoonful of sugar. There's a lot of other stuff on there too, and it's a lot like the Vamp Star too, where it can get kind of R-rated, but it never gets X-rated or anything like that.
Yeah. No, it's really not. Scared Topless exists within a certain framework. It is a softcore film. It's erotic. But it's not. I wouldn't consider it anything that's more than like a Playboy level. And so the stuff that I post and retweet on Twitter reflects that. I like history, so a lot of history stuff. I like anything that's retro. Boobs and retro. There's nothing better to me as far as if you're gonna have something with boobs. I like retro boobs. I'm not really a big fan of modern photography of boobs, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're nice, but it's I don't know. There's just something about like when the way the girls look back then. I like the pinup style stuff, and I don't know. As far as art, I like that better.
Well, that's something I've run across with Vamp Star as well. I like to post that sort of thing. The good Titty Tuesday post and to bring people in. But when you post the more modern stuff, like you said, I mean, nothing wrong with that, but it just starts to feel more like a porn Twitter or like a porn post. Whereas you're posting the vintage stuff like Dick, you do this on the Oak Drive-In as well. It just has a better feel to it. Your Rosa Labaniras and the Edwige.
Yeah, it's great stuff. It's you don't want to say it's more innocent, but there's just something more, I guess, pure about it as well.
I've been hounding Dave now for quite some time to do a sequel, because I want a cameo.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
well,
definitely.
you got it, definitely.
See, I was imagining Vamp Star should be a ghost band. There should be a scene where somewhere in the background there's a ghost band playing, and that's the cameo I want.
I'm down. I would definitely do that. I think that I will make another erotic film possibly in the future. I don't know, but right now, I'm creating. Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting. What I was creating with a few people I'm working with was a Scare Topless graphic novel. Then the artwork and the story just started to develop and started to grow into something greater than should be called a Scare Topless. I mean, as much as I love Scare Topless, but Scare Topless is a kind of a goofball concept. But the hard project started now to develop into something that was like a little bit more than that. So we rebranded it, we changed the name. I haven't released too much information about it yet, but we're going for not so much erotic and a little bit more mainstream, but it will have some erotic and B-movie thematic elements involved in it. But that's where all my focus is right now.
I'm not at liberty to discuss this because I've signed waivers and some death threats and some threats worse than death, but I've seen some of the stuff, and yeah, it's looking good. You're going to be in for a treat when this thing comes out.
Oh, man, you guys got me excited now.
So totally jumping gears now. I actually have thought of another personality question I'd like to ask you two mofos. If they were going to make a movie of this podcast, which this particular episode is going to be so fantastic, Hollywood is going to want to make a movie of this. But if they were going to make a movie of this podcast, and you could have any actor from any time period play you, who would it be?
That's a good question. Wow.
I got maybe a goofy one to start off with. This may seem really goofy to me. At my previous job, I spent a lot of time on the phone. Then one of our customers who called up told me I always sounded like Fozzie Bear on the phone.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm going to go with Fozzie Bear.
Fantastic.
Okay.
You don't need another answer. That's good enough.
Okay, let me think. Okay.
I'd like a serious answer too.
And well, let me think about it. Let's see if Dave's got something.
For a goofball answer, I would say Jeff Bridges, but from The Big Lebowski. He would have to be like playing it as Big Lebowski.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
That's not too goofball. I can see it.
It's not too goofball, but I thought that would be funny. And then I guess for a more serious one, geez, Tom Selleck. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. Go old school.
I said
I don't know.
any era. You can pick anyone from any era.
Yeah.
So
Any era. Oh, my friends. This will make my friends laugh. All right, I'll do this for their benefit. What's his name? The guy from Superbad.
come on, Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, well, Dick, if I was to cast it, I think I'd have Peter Cushing play you.
Rob, that's honest to God. That's who I was going to say.
Oh, well, there you go.
I was going to say for my serious one. Wow.
Okay, well, here's mine. My serious one, I mean, I think it's obvious, Bruce Campbell. If he could grow out the goatee, that's a Rob-like mofo right there. And then for my somewhat goofy one, you guys ever seen The Last Dragon?
Yes.
Show Enough?
Oh.
Yeah, I think he could bring some Rob charm to things.
Yeah, I'm drawing a picture of him. Yeah.
In the Rob Gray story, Show Enough.
Okay.
That dude was actually too weird, and I didn't even think about that till this second. He was on Briscoe County with Bruce Campbell. He was his sidekick, Lord Bowler, and he was really good on that. Had a mullet.
We got a great cast for a movie, though.
When I was in my early pre-teens, I did have a mullet. So, there you go.
Oh, all right. Yeah. How'd that work out?
Well, in 1991 or 2, it was fine. It wasn't until Billy Ray Cyrus came along that it got ruined. He stole the mullet from us.
Mullet's just a great word, a mullet. It almost sounds like a type of like a muskrat or something, some sort of rodent, right? A mullet.
Or a fish.
A fish. Oh, it is?
I can imagine it being a fish, too. Speaking of old Billy Ray, I was talking about this on Twitter recently. I was quite surprised. He has a new TV show on CMT, Still the King. Quite good. I enjoyed it a lot.
When was he ever considered the king?
It's fictional. He's playing
okay.
He's playing an Elvis impersonator. Real similar to My Name is Earl, but less touchy-feely and a little sleazier. Like, if you see the trailers, it makes it look like it's very touchy-feely, but it's not. It's actually just kind of a fun, sleazy show. He's a criminal. He's always doing bad stuff and never seems to really learn his lesson. I recommend it. It's still the king on CMT.
That's a cool idea for a show. Just a guy who plays a deplorable Elvis impersonator.
Oh, man, there's this episode where he goes to this convention. I think it's in Vegas. And in the other room is a Johnny Cash impersonation contest, and so the Johnny Cashes and the Elvises don't get along, and Wayne Newton plays one of the Johnny Cashes, and they get into this big brawl, and there's like this riot with Elvises fighting Johnny Cashes. It's good.
That's classic. That's a great idea.
Yeah, that is a good idea. One thing I've always wondered about the Elvis impersonators, has there ever been like a 1950s Elvis impersonator?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Really? Because all the ones
yeah.
I've seen have just been the 70s Vegas Elvis. I've never seen the Greaser Elvis.
Yeah, I've seen Greaser. I've even seen 68 Comeback Special.
Like the more instant Elvis, where he's kind of just like a nice country boy with a tucked-in shirt, pair of jeans.
Yeah, I've seen them all over the map of the
Really?
Elvises. Yeah. Yeah, I've actually I've dressed up as Elvis a couple times myself. It was always Whacky Elvises, but I've done a few Elvis costumes.
Oh, there was some Elvis movie I remember watching on television, like cable television, a while ago, and it was the guy's name was like John Rambo, played like a skywiving Elvis.
Oh, was that wasn't the one with
Kurt Russell, right?
There was the one with what's the Waterworld guy?
Yeah, wasn't it him and Kurt Russell? They were Elvis impersonators.
Like 10,000 Miles to Graceland or something like that.
Yes, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Am I wrong? Was Kurt Russell not in that?
I don't remember Kurt Russell was in it. Maybe he was, but I don't remember.
Maybe I just have Kurt Russell on the brain because of the last pod.
Yeah, we got to look that up.
I'm grabbing my tablet, so speak amongst yourselves.
That was just funny. I just remember thinking it's funny that I don't know, maybe he's making a joke, but if I remember correctly, his character's name was John Rambo, which is like, okay, fair enough.
That does sound familiar. Then we're thinking of rob a casino or something, or
I'm looking it up, so. Are you beating that dead hooker now?
No, I was just typing on my keyboard.
Oh, you were hitting it so hard. Oh, it's 3,000 miles to Graceland.
That's it.
But,
yeah, Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell's top bill too.
Oh, okay. Is Jim Belushi in it?
I shut it down already, so we will never know. But either way, I saw Kurt Russell, and that was enough for me.
All right.
Our last whole pod was how much we love Kurt Russell, so we probably shouldn't get on that again. So something we actually, when we first discussed the idea of having you on the pod, which was very early on, didn't we talk about the second episode?
Yes, yeah.
The topic, and that's back when we still picked topics to begin with and tried to do whole episodes on a topic, which never worked out, but Scream Queens. Who is your favorite all-time Scream Queen?
Oh, yeah. That's a great question. Probably Jamie Lee Curtis for Halloween.
Oh, you consider her a Scream Queen?
I do, in a way, not in like a traditional sense of the word Scream Queen. Maybe she doesn't count as a Scream Queen, now that I think about it, to be honest with you. I don't know. Does that sound cockamamie?
I personally wouldn't, but if you want to, that's fine and dandy with me.
Because I guess Scream Queen kind of means you have to be like heavily attracted to her.
Not necessarily. I just think of a Scream Queen as a woman who made her profession getting killed or killing in horror movies.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess then Jamie Lee Curtis probably would not fit that bill. I don't know. It's really, honestly, it's kind of hard to say because there's so many that I like. Think of their faces and I have trouble thinking of their names. You know what I mean?
Yes, he's thinking of their faces.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of their two faces on there.
I know you folks home can't see the air quotes I'm doing here behind the microphone, but faces.
Faces. It's true.
While he's doing some thinking, what about you, Dick?
Our favorite Scream Queen?
Would you consider Rosa Laba?
I consider Jamie Lee more of a Scream Queen than her. When I think Scream Queen, I kind of think of that 80s, 90s kind of thing. I always really liked Michelle Bauer.
Oh, she's good.
Yeah, I always liked her because she just had something really attractive about her. And I met her at a convention once, and she was really, really, really nice.
Mine goes total package, Linnea.
Yeah, she's the classic one, yeah.
But if we're going just looks, it would be Monique Gabriel.
Oh, yeah Monique Gabriel. She was in quite a few of Jim's films too. She's great. She was a Penthouse or Playboy as well, right?
I think it was Penthouse.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. Actually, she was a button.
And she did some mainstream movies. Like she had a part in Bachelor Party, if you remember. And then she was the naked girl in Amazon Women on the Moon. That was just naked everywhere she went, in church and the grocery store.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, those are two movies, the Amazon Women on the Moon and Kentucky Fried Movie, that I love those movies. If anyone ever asked me what was late night TV truly like in the day, I think the best slice of life, the best example, is the Kentucky Fried Movie. I mean, it just so perfectly captured that time period and that feeling.
Yeah.
I actually got to see that at the drive-in. That's one of my greatest drive-in memories in the world is Catholic Schoolgirls in Trouble. Usha DeGard in the shower.
Now, where is the Oak Drive-In? Is it gone now? Has it been made into a shopping mall?
Yeah, it's like, I think there's some kind of industrial complex on it now. That happened to many drive-in theaters.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Where are you guys? You're in LA, and then are you guys both in LA?
No, I'm currently in North Carolina, Raleigh.
Oh, okay, cool. So, I'm in New York, and if you go up to New England, you still see some drive-ins, which is kind of cool.
Oh, they're still operating?
Yeah, a few of them are still operating up there in like Maine and stuff.
Cool. I know a lot of them had a real rough time a few years back because of the digital stuff.
So another personality question I've been holding. It's a good one. If you could have any action figure of anything ever that's never been made into a figure, what would it be?
I'm very much being into history. I love especially military history. I like war, military history. And recently, I've been very into the French and Indian War and like Lake George and the sieges of fortifications and stuff like that. And I think it would be really cool to have like a giant play set of like an 18th century fort with all of the little hand painted like figurines.
Yeah.
Because I'm a huge military history guy too, Dave. And I actually used to work for a company. I worked for a few years at May Toy Soldiers.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really? Okay, that's cool.
What about you, Mr. Vincent? What is your...
So it could be anything from any movies or anything?
Anything ever. It could be your childhood principal if you wanted.
All right. This is going to sound maybe a little creepy, and Rob probably knows who I'm going to say, but I would go for a Rosalba Nera action figure.
Yep, that's where I thought you were going.
As long as I get to pick out which costume from which movie she's going to wear.
Well, have you seen any of the Fison dolls that are coming out these days?
No, I have not.
Well, Fison is a brand, I think they're out of Hong Kong. They are super realistic dolls. And the bodies, they have an endoskeleton, and they actually put the skin over them, so there's no joints, there's no lines or anything like that. It just looks like skin, but they're extremely posable, and they're anatomically correct.
Oh, wow.
And they're really nice. I'm pretty sure the Caroline Munro Star Crash doll is at least a Fison body.
Oh, I saw that at a comic show once. Did they do a Scarlett Johansson figure, too, from the Avengers movie, play a Black Widow?
There's a Hot Toys Black Widow, and I think there's some the Hot Toys ones are really nice too, but they're not anatomically correct like the Fisons, and they're about $150 more than the Fisons cost.
This Fison doll have like a dick and balls, whatever. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, for the male ones, you have to buy the wieners separately. I know what Dave's looking on eBay right now.
Yeah, typing away frantically.
Yeah, I think you're both breaking up on me here.
Oh yeah, I like to use dirty words once in a while.
All right, we're back after some technical difficulties, and I actually think I'm going to leave this in the pod just because I think it's funny.
Yeah.
But so my dream figure, one of many, would probably be, of course, a Laura Gemser Fison doll.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, being my all-time favorite actress, I think that's one I would definitely like to have a nice doll, nice anything of. I mean, there's really almost no merchandise of hers out there. And I have a couple of posters, and I paid way more than I should have for a magazine she was featured in, but that's about it.
Interesting.
One thing I would like to ask Dave, this is kind of something I enjoy asking people. If at some point in your childhood, Did you have like, the kind of horror epiphany moment with either like a movie or a story or anything that you kind of really got you into the genre and said, this is something that I really love?
Yeah, definitely. When I was in like third grade or so, I was at Costco with my mom, and she let me. My mom was kind of like weird like me, and I was begging if I could get Psycho on VHS, and she was very skeptical at first, but she got it for me, and I went home, and we had just come home from a family trip where we had went to Universal Studios in Florida, so I remember seeing this house, so I was like, oh, what's this, so I got the movie. I remember being so captivated by it, and I was just like, "Oh, this is like it scared the shit out of me." It like twisted my mind. I love it. I was like, "This is the coolest thing in the world." And the next like few weeks in school, I had like a writing assignment, and I wrote like a story that like it was like nothing too original. I was like just ripping a lot of stuff off from the movie Psycho. But my teachers were like got super creeped out, and they called my parents, and they're like, "Oh, we think something's wrong with your son." And they told my mom the story that I wrote, and then my mom was like, "Oh no, like this is from the movie Psycho. Like I just bought him that movie on VHS like a couple weeks ago."
That's a great story. Something similar happened that to me. Like I mentioned, I was always a big military history guy, and I was like in the fourth grade. I did a book report on Erwin Rommel.
Ooh,
And
nice.
and they called my parents into the school.
It's interesting. It's an interesting chap, that Erwin Rommel.
Yep. And my dad was pretty much, the kid's into history, just whatever. Yeah, my dad was pretty much, whatever. Don't bother me with this again.
Well, great minds think alike, because I had a very similar experience myself. I got into horror movies and heavy metal at a very young age. And one time, a math teacher took me aside. I don't even know why. And she just took me aside and was like, "Robert, you are a very disturbed little boy."
Wow.
Oh, my mom got so mad. She went up to that school and pitched a fit.
Wow. Plus, I would have worn that like a badge of honor.
Yep. All right, folks. Well, that is our episode for today. Thanks for listening, and thanks so much for Mr. Zimbabwe for being on the pod with us. And
Yes, well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for having me. I appreciate it. I had a lovely time. I would ask everybody out there, go check us out at scaredtopless.com. You can follow us on Twitter at scaredtopless, and check us out on Instagram also at scaredtopless. And how many times can I say Scared Topless? All right, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
well, don't forget Shark Babes. He also did
And Shark Babes too, of course. We'll have a Shark Babes DVD release probably sometime in 27.
All right, Mr. Vincent, take us out.
All right, everybody. Yeah, thanks a lot for tuning in today. We had a great show. I really want to give a big shout out to Dave for joining us today. And remember, everybody, to stay scared topless.
Hiya, kids. It's me, your friend Grandpa. I gotta tell you, I am starting a new club, and I want you to join. It's called the Junior Vampires of America. I mean, you'll hear scary monster stories. Now, to call, you gotta ask your parents' permission and call this phone number, 1-900-909-4300. You'll hear all about my monster friends, learn how to get a free vampire patch and a list of special vampire tricks and secrets. So call 1-900-909-4300. Learn how to scare your friends, even yourself. Join Grandpa's Junior Vampires of America Club, and I will make you a junior vampire.
Hey kids, call 1-900-909-4300. That's 1-900-909-4300 to hear Grandpa's scary stories and join the Junior Vampires Club. Just $2 the first minute, 45 cents each additional. Ask Mom or Dad first.
That stupid Bootylicious song.
What a man! Yeah, from the 90s.
Man, you guys could just do a whole show on this.
I'm just sitting here doing nothing but being negative, so I'll probably dribble out of this. But
Film from you next week. But when I was looking at the let me start over again. When I was looking at the IMBD page,
So anyway, sorry, I'm drinking coffee. I'm just blabbering on.
well,
we had a great time with them today. And okay, let me start over again. And remember, everybody, to stay scared topless.
you're not going to mention the dead hookers?
Oh, yeah, and we all got to remember, before we start the next podcast, we got to remember to get our dead hookers set, because we were messing with them at the beginning of the show, and it just caused all kinds of problems.
So what are you saying, folks? Put away your dead hookers before you pod.